On the other side of humanity's coin, we have Donald Trump Jr., who was in court again this morning. There he is. You hear the protesters chanting, crime family, and that is basically what these people are, a crime family, a very dumb crime family, the Gambozos, if you will, and Don Jr., he's so embarrassing. He's on the stand, he's testifying in this $250 million fraud trial, and he has to compliment. He said his father is an artist. For once, we've got some happy news to report from our nation's capital, where for the first time since 1870, the second couple, of vice president and his wife, are having a baby. They have a baby on the way. J.D. Vance and his wife, Usha, announced they are expecting a baby in July. The baby is a boy and will stay a boy forever. The president congratulated the couple. Oh, he didn't? No, he didn't. Not publicly anyway. They have to name the baby Donald, right? I mean, it has to be.
Jimmy Kimmel has been absolutely relentless when it comes to Donald Trump Jr. And one of his live television takedowns was so brutal, it felt like the entire Trump family must have been scrambling to react behind the scenes. Before we get deeper into everything that happened, if you're enjoying this kind of celebrity commentary and want to help support independent reporting, consider joining our membership for just $9 a month. It costs less than grabbing a coffee, but it helps us keep creating content like this, and could even allow us to offer an ad-free experience in the future. Now, back to the story. Kimmel has spent years making Donald Trump Jr. the target of some of his sharpest jokes, but recently, those punchlines have become even more ruthless. At this point, it almost seems like not even Donald Trump himself could rescue his son from the non-stop ridicule. What makes Kimmel's attacks stand out is that he rarely relies on simple insults. Instead, he mixes comedy with documented moments and pointed observations that leave Trump supporters furious, while giving his audience plenty to laugh about.
I'm not supposed to rely on a big five accounting firm, like one of the biggest accounting firms in the world. I can pay them millions of dollars. I rely on them to do accounting, but I'm supposed to know more than them. By this logic, insurance companies are going to start suing patients for listening to their doctors. Right? Do you understand? Like, am I supposed to know more? Oh, Don Jr. doesn't know anything about it. I'm not an accountant. I'm a business guy.
I'm a business guy who had his elbows soldered together, and now. And while Don Jr. was in New York preparing to testify in court, his fiancée Kimberly was at the party dressed up as Trump's constituent, Snow White. Don Jr. was not at Daddy Donald's last night. The prodigal son was being grilled as part of the $250 million case against their business. There he is, tiny soprano. I wonder what's going through his head right now.
I should have worn makeup.
Oh, yeah. Good one. Here's the thing about Don Jr. What he lacks in intelligence, he also lacks in charisma. So,
let's rewind to November 2024, shortly after Donald Trump won the election. Donald Trump Jr. shared a meme aimed at Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, writing, "POV, you're 38 days from losing your allowance," as a jab at continued American military aid to Ukraine. Jimmy Kimmel wasted no time responding during his November 11, 2024 monologue, joking that those were pretty confident words coming from someone who probably still depended on his father's phone plan. Then he pushed things even further by saying that if he were Donald Trump Jr., he would never use the word allowance under any circumstances, before questioning what his actual profession even was, beyond being unpleasant. That was more than a simple late-night joke. It was a direct attack on Don Jr.'s public image and career. After all, critics have long questioned what role he really plays besides posting combative messages online and appearing in headlines for controversial hunting trips, making Kimmel's remarks land even harder with viewers.
I don't know that they'd be there for us. They're not there for us on Iceland, that I can tell you. I mean, our stock market took the first dip yesterday because of Iceland.
The president mistakenly called Greenland Iceland. His speech is slurred. He's got bruises on his hands. Are you at all worried about the president's health or his decline at all?
The world watched in horror as Donald Trump gave a speech about Greenland while repeatedly calling it Iceland. But when asked about it, MAGA Mike Johnson decided to, well, throw a temper tantrum.
Is this a serious question?
As you well know by now, Trump spoke at the World Economic Forum and in the middle of talking about Greenland and NATO, repeatedly referred to Iceland, mixing them up in a way that, would be kind of funny if it weren't tied to international diplomacy and threats against allies.
The criticism did not stop there. During that same period, following the Democrats' strong election performance in November 2025, Kimmel once again turned his attention toward both Donald Trump and his oldest son. He joked that Trump had not been that embarrassed since discovering there was a Donald Trump Jr., delivering the punchline with perfect timing before letting the audience react. The implication was unmistakable. Kimmel was portraying Don Jr. as one of his father's greatest sources of embarrassment, and the crowd responded with loud laughter because the joke connected instantly. Whether people agreed or disagreed politically, the line quickly became one of the most talked about moments from the show. Then the conversation shifted back to September 2024, when Kimmel's commentary became even more personal and sparked another wave of discussion online.
Cracker Barrel is the Amish Applebee's. It's Apple B-. It's barely a restaurant. It's a restaurant that sells yo-yos made of wood, okay? Calm down. But all the woke yokels were up in arms. Even cosplay grits gobbler, New York prep school Nepo baby Don Jr. wine. WTF is wrong with Cracker Barrel? As if he's ever been to a Cracker Barrel. You ruined my rocking chair store. Maybe my favorite bit of misplaced outrage came from this gentleman who wrote, "They got rid of a white guy from a logo and they are celebrating and patting themselves on the back for it." Yes, it's racism. White men are being erased from American logos. It's Caucasian icon genocide. I mean, Donald Jr. or whatever. This will be the Vance's fourth child. And I'm surprised. I mean, where does he find the energy to make another kid with all that sexy White House furniture around? It's incredible. Little known fact, the only birth control J.D. Vance uses is a pull-out couch. Thank you. But
around that time, Kimmel devoted an entire segment to asking what was happening with Donald Trump Jr.'s speech, a clip that quickly spread across social media and attracted tens of thousands of likes, along with thousands of comments as viewers debated it everywhere. His focus was not simply on the way Don Jr. sounded while speaking. Kimmel used the moment to question how someone who constantly projects a tough, confident public image could struggle to communicate clearly during interviews and appearances. Not long afterward, attention shifted to the decision to choose J.D. Vance as Donald Trump's running mate. Reports suggested that Donald Trump Jr. strongly encouraged his father to make that choice, and because many commentators viewed Vance as one of the least popular vice presidential selections in recent years, Kimmel seized the opportunity to place much of the blame directly on Don Jr.'s political judgment.
I mentioned last night Trump was the guest of honor at a launch event for Elon Musk's new rocket, and he wasn't the only Donald Trump. Don Jr. was there, and he's been getting some unwanted attention for this. Now, let's look at that again in slow motion. He goes to the pocket, he fishes around, and well, let's not jump to conclusion. Maybe he's got some fun dip in there,
Not to mention, let's just go ahead and add this to the never-ending list of imagine this was Biden.
Doing it, I'm helping Europe, I'm helping NATO, and I've until the last few days when I told them about Iceland, they loved me. They called me daddy, right? Last time. Very smart man said, "He's our daddy. He's running it." I was like running it. I went from running it to being a terrible human being.
TW, how do we explain this?
That's Donald Trump. That's the reason he got 77 million votes and was twice elected.
So if Joe Biden were to have done that and mistaken Greenland for Iceland,
Joe Biden
you guys would have been calling 25th Amendment. You guys would have been calling for his impeachment.
If he did his Trump impression?
If he gave word for word the same speech that Donald Trump gave today,
it would be the most backbone he has shown in front of a large international.
Men in white uniforms would have rushed the stage and put him into a straitjacket
I will tell you
and put him in a padded room for the rest of the day.
Well, I'm not going to go there. Joe Biden's mental acuity or whatever.
But for real, TW, honestly.
Yeah.
Kimmel did not hold back during that monologue either. He mocked Donald Trump Jr. on live television and joked that if Trump ended up losing the election, he might sue his own son just to remove the Jr. from his name. The audience immediately understood the joke because it suggested Don Jr.'s political advice had been every bit as successful as some of the Trump family's failed business ventures. One of the most memorable moments, however, came in October 2024, when Kimmel spent only a couple of minutes dissecting Donald Trump Jr.'s professional history piece by piece. He highlighted the short-lived Trump mortgage business, mentioned Don Jr.'s involvement as a spokesperson for Cambridge Who's Who, referenced the large number of Better Business Bureau complaints connected to those ventures, revisited the controversial Trump Tower meeting involving Russians during the 2016 campaign, and even pointed to reports that the Republican National Committee purchased more than $100,000 worth of copies of Don Jr.'s book Triggered to help it reach the top of the bestseller list for a brief period.
Maybe his veneers were hurting and he needed a little dollop of Sensodyne. Whatever it was, it didn't stop DJ TJ from posting another super cool TikTok video from inside a rocket that unfortunately did not launch with him in it.
We're actually inside a Falcon Heavy rocket right now. Does not get cooler than this. Each one of these engines has the equivalent of 4 747 engines, each one. And there's dozens of them in these rockets. But each one of these guys, 4 747 engines.
He's fine, everybody. There's nothing to worry about at all. Where's Hunter?
But back in Washington, I guess the feed was a little fuzzy because when Speaker Mike Johnson was asked about it, he decided to snap back at the reporter, asking, quote, "Is this a serious question? I cannot even believe that you asked me that."
Year ahead of us with so many events around the country. I think it'd be a reckless decision on their part.
The president mistakenly called Greenland Iceland. His speech is slurred. He's got bruises on his hands. Are you at all worried about the president's health or his decline at all?
Is this a serious question? This president sleeps about 3 hours a night. He outworks everybody in this building by a factor of 2 or 3.
That's right. The speaker of the same political party that, well, you'd find many of their members climbing over each other to get on Fox News to discuss any incident involving Joe Biden misspeaking, suddenly clutching his pearls at the thought of anyone daring to ask whether his precious president should know the difference between the country he's hell-bent on colonizing and a European nation. But Republicans can't openly acknowledge Trump's mistakes, right? Because in doing that, it would invite the next question. If he can't keep Greenland and Iceland straight, should he be threatening to control Greenland?
Mr. President, pull out of NATO if it doesn't help you acquire Greenland. If it doesn't lead to
Well, we're going to see. NATO has been dealing with us on Greenland. We need Greenland for national security very badly. If we don't have it, we have a big hole in national security, especially when it comes to what we're doing in terms of the Golden Dome and all of the other things. We have a lot of investments in military. We have got the strongest military in the world, and it's only getting stronger. And you saw that with Venezuela. You saw that with the attack on Iran, with the knocking out their nuclear capability potentially. So, yeah, we're talking to NATO.
By the end of that segment, Kimmel had stacked one example after another before sarcastically describing Donald Trump Jr. as a completely self-made success who somehow manages to do everything. The irony was impossible to miss. What gives Kimmel's monologues their impact is that they often combine documented public events with comedy, instead of relying only on personal attacks. When he displayed photos highlighting Don Jr.'s most criticized fashion choices and joked that he looked like the dumbest crayon in the box while wearing bright orange clothing, the visual itself became part of the punchline. Kimmel used those moments to argue that Donald Trump Jr. represented the downside of inherited privilege, suggesting that despite being handed opportunities many people never receive, he repeatedly failed to capitalize on them. Perhaps the biggest reason these jokes continue to resonate is that Don Jr. rarely offers a response that changes the conversation. When Kimmel jokes about him supposedly relying on his father's support, or questions what his actual accomplishments are, there is little room for an effective comeback. Whether the topic is his social media activity, his controversial hunting expeditions, or his constant appearances defending his father, Kimmel frames each joke around public events, making it much harder for Donald Trump Jr. to dismiss the criticism with a simple reply.
Move my arms like a Muppet all the time. And with all the complaining the Trumps do about this trial playing out in the media, you could barely even turn the channel without seeing their lawyer doing an interview with somebody.
What have they been asking the kids? And tell me how they fit into all of this.
They don't fit into all of this. What have they been asking the kids? It's very simple. They'll ask the kids, did you give a value to somebody? Did you do something? And everybody said resoundingly no. And these kids did nothing wrong. They should not be in this case. Ivanka's already out of the case. The boys should not be in the case.
That's right. They're just boys. They're kids. Eric has a book report due this weekend. They're both still wearing pull-ups. They're on trial? I mean, come on.
There's one thing I heard you say yesterday and today. You were not absolutely sure that the Europeans would come to the rescue of the US if you will be attacked. Let me tell you, they will. And they did in Afghanistan, as you know, for every American who paid the ultimate, for every 2 Americans who paid the ultimate price, there was 1 soldier from another NATO country who did not come back to his family. From the Netherlands, from Denmark, particularly from other countries. So you can be assured, absolutely, if ever the US will be under attack, your allies will be with you. Absolutely, there's an absolute guarantee. I really want to tell you this because it is important. It pains me if you think it is not. And under your leadership, this alliance is stronger than ever.
But at the same time, they also can't convincingly explain it because, well, there's actual footage that exists and the confusion is so obvious. So the move then becomes attack the question itself, not the concern, not the facts, the question.
I don't know that they'd be there for us. They're not there for us on Iceland, that I can tell you. I mean, our stock market took the first dip yesterday because of Iceland. So Iceland's already cost us a lot of money. But that dip is peanuts compared to what it's gone up.
But Johnson then tried to pivot into the standard script when it comes to Trump's health. He sleeps, quote, 3 hours a night, outworks everyone, and has done more than any president in history. Which is a fascinating defense, right? Because in a way, he's admitting that Trump is confused. He's saying, yeah, he's confused because he's not sleeping and keeping his entire staff up to listen to him incoherently rambling. But this wasn't just a gaffe that happened amidst many of his weaves, right? This is involving the very country that countless European leaders had to flock to an emergency meeting to discuss because Trump has been hell-bent on annexing.
If you thought Kimmel had already gone as far as he could, September 2025 proved otherwise. During one of his monologues, he described Donald Trump Jr. as a cosplay grits gobbler New York prep school Nepo baby, delivering a nickname that packed an incredible amount of criticism into just a few words. It was more than a clever insult because it painted an entire image of who Kimmel believes Don Jr. really is. His argument was that Trump Jr. presents himself as an everyday, rugged American while growing up with enormous wealth in Manhattan and enjoying a lifestyle built on privilege. Kimmel contrasted that public image with expensive hunting gear, private jet travel, and the polished background of someone raised in elite circles rather than rural America. What made the whole situation even more entertaining for his audience was the predictable reaction that followed. Almost every time Kimmel takes aim at Donald Trump Jr., Donald Trump responds on Truth Social with fresh attacks against the comedian, creating a cycle that often gives Kimmel even more material to work with. Watching those exchanges has become part of the entertainment itself, as many viewers see it as a father rushing in to defend his son every time another late-night joke lands.
We sent somebody to his golf course. He has a golf course in Palos Verdes, not far from here, and also to Trump Tower in New York, where many of the items for sale, the Trump items, are made in, guess where? That's right, China. This pink knit scarf, this beautiful item, made in China. These Trump flasks, this shot glass, this very patriotic water bottle, this the American flag hat, made in China, this Trump military jacket, all made in China. Unbelievable. It's beyond shameless. Now, this product is not an official. He does not, as far as I know, make any money from this. But this is an original piece of art. It's called Trumpy Trout. It's kind of like, you remember the Billy Bass? They came up with the Trumpy Trout. This is actually for sale. And if you...
I'm the biggest Trump in the pod, and I'm the biggest Trump in me. and probably never will be. Let's make fishing great again.
Yeah, right. It's like,
European leaders pushing back against President Trump's latest threat on America's closest allies, escalating his demand to acquire Greenland. Trump now warning 8 key NATO allies, including Denmark, France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, that they will face tariffs, starting with 10% in February, until a deal is reached for the complete and total purchase of Greenland. Nearly 30 European ambassadors holding an emergency meeting Sunday. Allies now flocking to Greenland's defense.
Alliances endure because they're built on respect and partnership, not pressure. That is why I said the use of tariffs against allies is completely wrong.
The French president calling the tariff threats unacceptable. Sweden's prime minister saying we will not let ourselves be blackmailed. Only Denmark and Greenland decide on issues concerning Denmark and Greenland.
And it makes him look like a laughingstock.
Donald Trump eventually fired back by calling Jimmy Kimmel talentless and claiming his ratings were struggling. But Kimmel's supporters quickly pointed to the comedian's continued success. His late-night show remains on the air, he continues to host major events like the Academy Awards, and millions of people still tune in to watch his monologues, many of which regularly feature sharp criticism of the Trump family. Meanwhile, critics often ask what Donald Trump Jr.'s biggest independent accomplishment has actually been, outside of his family name, a question Kimmel repeatedly uses as the foundation for many of his jokes. If you've been enjoying this breakdown of Kimmel's most memorable takedowns, be sure to leave a like and share your opinion in the comments. Which moment stood out the most to you? Was it the joke about the allowance, the segment discussing Don Jr.'s speaking style, or the detailed breakdown of his career history? There are plenty of memorable moments to choose from, and the conversation surrounding late-night comedians challenging the Trump family is far from over.
Don Jr. had some father and son event this weekend. They went to the UFC fight at Madison Square Garden. There they are. Trump's being cheered on. With he's got Dana White there. He's got Tucker Carlson in the back. He's got Kid Rock in tow. And of course, oh yeah, there we go, little fist bump. Don Jr. was thrilled to be a part of the group. He posted this picture of him and Tuck cackling in their blue checker print shirts. A couple of banana Republicans right there. And before I share this, I'd like to remind you, this is a post from the President of the United States. He wrote, as previously mentioned, we are giving serious thought to taking away Rosie's citizenship. She is not a great American and is, in my opinion, incapable of being so. Here's the thing, whenever he's spitting out, he goes back to Rosie. That's his safe space. He zeroes out. Calling her fat is what makes him comfortable. Meanwhile, she's about half his weight now. In fact, this photo he posted... She posted the photo. This photo he posted looks really more like him than hers.
The biggest reason these Kimmel monologues continue generating so much attention is that they are built around widely discussed public events rather than completely invented controversies. Instead of creating fictional scandals, Kimmel usually takes real headlines, public appearances, interviews, and documented statements before reshaping them into comedy that resonates with his audience. That is why lines like saying Donald Trump had not been this embarrassed since discovering he had a Donald Trump Jr. connect so strongly with viewers who are already familiar with the family's public image. Over the years, audiences have watched Don Jr. struggle through interviews, publish social media posts that sparked criticism, and become involved in controversies that repeatedly return to the headlines. According to Kimmel's critics and supporters alike, many of the jokes land because they reference moments people already recognize. Another pattern that keeps the cycle going is Donald Trump Jr.'s own responses. Time after time, he answers criticism through platforms like X or Truth Social, giving late-night hosts even more material to discuss. When Kimmel jokes that Don Jr. constantly seeks his father's approval, his public defense of nearly every Trump decision becomes part of the ongoing conversation. When Kimmel questions his qualifications or business record, every attempt to argue back often brings renewed attention to earlier controversies instead. That repeated back and forth has become a story in itself. Beyond the comedy, supporters of Kimmel argue that late-night television can also serve as a form of public accountability by using humor to examine powerful political figures and influential families in ways that attract millions of viewers who might not otherwise follow traditional news coverage. Those clips frequently spread across social media, reaching audiences far beyond television broadcasts and keeping the discussion alive long after each episode ends. If you enjoy this style of commentary, share this video with others who are interested in politics, entertainment, and media analysis. Subscribe for more in-depth coverage, turn on notifications so you never miss future videos, and continue supporting independent reporting that examines influential public figures through documented events, thoughtful commentary, and sharp satire.